1995. In the West, this was the year of the release of the Sony PlayStation, a system that would rival Nintendo in the game market for many years. It was in this year that the first Aark the Lad game was also released, but only in Japan. Despite its critical success in the land of the rising sun, Sony Computer Entertainment America, SCEA, refused to license the game for Western release due to their belief that the role-playing market was not an important one. Thus, the game enjoyed its success in Japan only. It wasn't until 2002, 7 years later, that Working Designs, a company which had been known for localizing a number of quirky Japanese titles for the West, such as Alandra, Luna Silver Star, and Luna Eternal Blue, was able to convince SCEA to let them license the game. Packaged in the Aark the Lad collection for the Sony PlayStation, Aark the Lad had finally crossed the ocean. The game opens with Kukuru, a girl from Seria's sacred tribe tasked with guarding the Flame Sion, a beacon of light that must never be extinguished. Kukuru feels like she is trapped, as it's her lot in life to marry the royalty of Palencia, the ruling kingdom of Seria. Wanting to choose her own life's direction, she extinguishes the flame at the advice of the village mayor. Suspicious much? Meanwhile, Aark, the protagonist of our story, prepares to set out on an expedition to find his father, who left home 10 years prior. The Flame Sion being extinguished is a sign that may lead him to his father's location. On the way to the mountain summit, he encounters a demon that takes his life. Game over? Well, not yet. A divine light tells him that this isn't the end, and he is given a second chance by guardians of the land, who task him with finding the Ark. No, not himself, but the Ark, a holy relic that is said to prevent darkness from consuming the world. In order to do this, he must gather 5 elemental stones, and some stalwart allies to assist him in battle. Aark the Lad is a tactical RPG, in a similar vein to Final Fantasy Tactics or Vandal Hearts, also for the Sony PlayStation. However, it is unfair to compare Aark the Lad to these titles, as this game released during the early stages of the PlayStation's life cycle. In battle, your party members start in pre-designated spots that can't be changed. Your characters can move around the battlefield, and jump over each other, enemies, or obstacles if they have the jump skill. This is all well and good, however many of the battlefields limit the movement space, which more often than not results in your characters bottlenecking in narrow spaces against the enemies. This wouldn't be too bad in a normal SRPG, however, every character's melee attack is short range only, so there's no possibility of setting an archer or spearman in the rear, for example, because none of the characters are proficient in these weapon types. Your characters do have magic and special abilities, but the effectiveness of these are directly tied to their character level. If your character hasn't been able to gain experience, then their attacks and abilities will not be much help at all. Unfortunately, I found that Poco and Chongara were severely underleveled by the end of the game, compared to my other characters. At the start of battle, you may select up to 4 accessories for each character to take into the foray. These range from items that increase your character's statistics, to those that block status ailments. Some of these accessories are very useful, whilst others are not. When the battle starts, you may move your character around their movement range, indicated by blue tiles, then press circle to open the ability radial, or square to open the shared inventory. Simply pressing X will allow your character to attack. Attacking an enemy from the side or back is always advised, as attacking from the front can often lead to the enemy performing a counter-attack. Any action taken in battle earns experience. However, attacking or killing an enemy grants the most experience. One thing I will commend the game for is relegating characters to specific class roles. For instance, Aark is a swordsman and the only person in the game that can summon the power of the guardian spirits in battle, whereas Poco uses an array of instruments that can buff the party or debilitate the enemies. In theory, these limitations mean that each character can be useful in their own way, but I often found that the best way to quickly win battles was to have Tosh, Iga, and Ark clear out the battlefield before things got too hectic. Sadly, in my game, characters like Poco got left in the dust. I suppose that's what he gets for choosing to use symbols in battle. If you feel like some of your characters are getting too far behind in levels, you can revisit old battlefields to gain experience, or take on a few different side quests to level up and gain accessories. While some of these side quests are tedious, I am told that they are a necessity to get the most out of the sequel game, Ark the Lad 2, which has a data transfer service from this game. Of the side quests, one involves killing monsters on the continent of Zaraban for the water spirit. When searching for guides, I found a common misconception on how this is to be completed. If this doesn't sound like your cup of tea, you can also take part in arena matches in both Nidel and Ameda Temple, or take on the Forbidden Ruins, a 50-floor dungeon that houses the best accessories in the game. The only downfall to this dungeon is that there are no save points, your HP and MP does not restore between floors, and once you get to the bottom you must backtrack all the way out with all the enemies from previous floors respawned. I am told that this is worth it to get a bonus character, and a special item that makes an amazing item when transferred into the second game. At the time of writing this review, I am yet to complete this dungeon. After plugging away at getting that cheer trumpet, I am feeling a little burnt out. Let's move on to the characters of the game. Despite Ark the Lad being a short 10 hours, less if you don't worry about getting the cheer trumpet, the characters have well-defined personalities. They also banter with each other, rather than with Ark alone, and the save screen and map images of your party together are quite cute and informative in a show-don't-tell kind of way. The game also has a quirky sense of humour, which working designs translated favourably. One of my favourite moments is when you are leaving Milmana to complete a task for the general. You're told to stay close to a warrior, but right when you're about to leave, Kukuru runs up and smoke bombs him out of the blue. Poco seemed as shocked by this as I was, and Ark just shrugs it off, saying that maybe it's best. It's random moments like these that made me want to continue playing. Also, any scene with Chongara is ace. Sadly, one of the downsides of the game is its inability to explore. There are so few locations in the game that you can actually walk around in, and the world map is a bland selection of continents, or the territories within them. I was often confused by text display, as it's not intuitive to indicating where on the map a place is. I would have liked to see a little more detail to these maps, though I hear that this is something that was improved upon in the second game. Graphically, some of the pixel art in this game is very dated, and the quality of the FMV sequences is very grainy, but that's to be expected considering file compression at the time. Whilst the graphics aren't bad, and the pixel art can be detailed in some respects, I'm not a fan of the chubby style that the developers went with in portraying all the characters. However, in saying that, the character and monster animations can be charming at times, and this complements the humour that working designs injected into the script. Such things as Poco often running and tripping over, or Chongara summoning a monster from his pot, have nice detail to them. As for the sound design, nothing is really grating, and the effects all match the visuals. One thing I did like was that the Japanese voice acting was preserved in battle. Whilst this may concern some people because of the Eastern influence in the game, and maybe their inability to understand the Japanese language, I actually liked it. It may also help that I've been living in Japan for 3 years now, so can understand most of what the characters are saying. I will admit that I am tired of Poco always dying and saying "Of course you died, of course that's bad, you're trying to kill enemies with fucking symbols." The music for the game is heavily Eastern inspired, using a lot of pipes and the simulated sound of the koto. It's not a bad soundtrack, and I liked that the themes were different based upon which country you were visiting. The instruments used were different between, say, the Japanese-themed Seiya and the desert nation of Zaraban. My favourite track is Four Generals. It plays anytime you receive some exposition on the political corruption of those in power in the various nations. This music makes me want to bring justice to all those that are giving humanity a bad name. Ark the Lad isn't a bad game, but I wouldn't say it's an amazing game either. sitting at a short 10 hours and with heavy Eastern themes which were unfamiliar territory for Western audiences at the time, I can see why, in 1995, SCEA was hesitant to have the game localized. However, I am glad that they eventually relented and that Working Designs put it into the Aark the Lad collection. I just hope that when I transfer my data into the second game, Poco will miraculously become amazing. Who knows, maybe he'll realize that using symbols to attack enemies is a fucking stupid idea. I don't think I can do another round of leaving the poor boy in the back row. It would have been better to leave him at home clutching his mother's skirts. Anyway, if you want to get into Aark the Lad, this is definitely a good place to start, as things can only get better from here.